Well, today has been a day of gearboxes, and earlier in the day I was working on stripping down the Royal Enfield, the Indian Enfield 500 gearbox up here on the bike lift. At the moment I'm on stop with that one because I'm waiting for some parts that will hopefully come tomorrow, and then I can carry on with it. So I turned my attention to a Velocette gearbox that's been in the queue, and decided that I'd have a look in there. And I've never worked on one before, but I decided I'd just do it in the usual way, just take things apart carefully and lay them out in some kind of order that made sense. And this one had been giving the owner problems where the kickstart had been going down while he was riding the bike, and I think it was making a bit of a buzzing noise. So I've taken it apart just to have a look, because usually that might signify that a layshaft bush running in the kickstart mechanism might be binding or something. But these Velocettes, it turns out, I've had a look online, and it seems that they have a bush, but it's a floating bush, and it's floating, it's not binding, so that's not the culprit. The kickstart mechanism was the biggest contributor to the trouble, although the layshaft assembly here, I notice this gear, whichever one it is, one of the first gears or one of the top gears, whichever way around these work, I'm not quite sure. This had crept along its splines, and it seems to be quite a sort of press fit. It had crept a few millimetres that way, so I sorted that out and got that back where it should be, so the layshaft can move back over towards the gearbox sprocket side and away from the kickstart side by a little bit. And it didn't quite make sense in that this is part of the kickstart mechanism. Now that kickstart shaft lives in there, there's a few other bits go in there as well, but this contains this sort of thrust disc. Then you've got the floating bush, and that bush runs on this end of the layshaft, or the layshaft runs in the bush floats inside there as well. But for some reason that I couldn't understand initially, there was nothing to stop the layshaft coming this way and the face of the kickstart gear getting too close to the corresponding teeth on that layshaft gear and sort of partially engaging. And it turns out that although they weren't present, there's supposed to be 3 pins of 3/16 inch diameter by 9/16 length. Now I've just tried these, they measure up pretty close, but they've got rounded ends on them. I might see if I can get proper sort of squared off end ones, but in principle they work. And let's just have a look there. We got this hole here is one of them, I think. Let's see. They go in there like that. Funny sort of setup, but you might just be able to see it sticking up into there. And the 3 of them are what are supposed to hold this disc, thrust disc, further towards the end of the layshaft rather, and the bush. Now with those 3 pins absent, this was able to move back, the layshaft was able to move closer to the kickstart quadrant, and that gear was able to foul on the corresponding kickstart gear. I've had a look at all the gears, and they all spin freely and look undamaged, and the selector mechanism and so on appears to be good. So I've got the peace of mind that I can at least put the gears and shafts and selector mechanism back into the gearbox, and anything that I need to do to deal with this trouble, if these pins here don't quite work, it's just a simple matter of taking the kickstart assembly off the gearbox end cover, and all the gears and shafts and everything can actually stay put where they are. But at least in taking it apart, I found that that pressed on layshaft gear needed some attention and needed pressing further on. So I can put the gearbox, contents of the gearbox back together and concentrate on seeing if these three that I found here will do the job. Got another two somewhere, they've escaped momentarily, but there's one of them. And if not, it won't be any trouble to buy some of the right size if they turn out to be a little bit inadequate due to those rounded ends there. And they are a slightly wobbly fit, so I probably will see if I can get something a bit more suitable. But like I say, that can all be done from outside when the gearbox is all back together again, so not a great worry there. But that's my first look inside a Velocette gearbox. Nothing too scary. The shafts are quite light. I thought they might be more sort of heavy looking, bigger diameters than that, but obviously that's all that they need. Everything looks well made, and seems to have plenty of life left in it, so that lot will be going back in there shortly.